What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video, we are going to go over something I guarantee most of you guys did not know. Do you guys know that nutria rats, muskrats, water rats, whatever you want to call them, are actually an invasive species? Because I didn't, and I grew up with these things. I just legitimately thought they were just a part of things that are supposed to be here, or that were always here, and yeah. So, I learned something new. I hope you guys can learn something new too. Let me know what you guys think about this whole thing in particular, because basically, yeah, I'm just really interested and kind of excited to find out that a creature that I literally knew about my entire life wasn't supposed to be in the United States. Um, but yeah, before we get into this article though, guys, please go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you never miss another video from me, as well as go ahead and drop a comment down below with anything you would like for me to cover in the future, or just what you guys thought about the article. But without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get into this. These are the Nutria, the invasive rodents of unusual size. Okay, guys, so like I always like to do before we start these videos, I don't own the rights to these articles. I simply use them to pass along information. If you guys would like to go read this article for yourself, can be found at livescience.com, and I hope you guys go there and show them some love. Or you can just hang out here and we'll go through all this together. So let's get into this. Nutria, the invasive rodents of unusual size. That's a nutria rat, or a muskrat, or like I said, yeah. Swamp rat, Kyopu. Alright. Nutria, also known as Koipu or swamp rats, are large rodents that live in areas with lots of fresh water. These mammals are native to South America and were introduced into the United States between 1899 and 1930 through the fur industry. According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, nutria are now considered a nuisance in the U.S. and other parts of the world, where their populations have grown and their presence has disrupted the native ecosystem. What are nutria? Nutria are relatively big rodents that grow between 17 and 25 inches long, 43 to 64 centimeters from head to rump, which is about the same size as a raccoon. Their tail adds another 10 to 16 inches, and the animal weighs between 15 and 22 pounds. According to National Geographic, although they're about the size of a raccoon, nutria look more like a cross between a small beaver and a giant rat, with two large orange front teeth and long rounded tails. Yeah, they're basically a tailless beaver. If you were to take like a rat's head, a beaver's body, and then a rat's tail, and that's what you get. Like, that's a nutria. Nutria breed year-round and can have up to 3 litters a year, with between 2 and 13 offspring per litter, allowing their population to rapidly grow. According to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, these mammals become sexually mature as early as 4 months of age, and females can breed again about 1 to 2 days after giving birth. According to Fish and Wildlife Service, after a gestation period of about 4 months, nutria pups will nurse for about 7 to 8 weeks and stay with their mom for around 10 weeks, but pups can also survive on their own when they're as young as 5 days old. Nutria are aquatic creatures and prefer freshwater to saltwater. They live in burrows connected by tunnels that they dig near rivers, canals, lakes, or in wetlands, according to National Geographic. So, like, they can realistically, so they're sexually mature at 4 months. So at 4 months, they can start having babies. They can literally get pregnant again, like 1 to 2 days after having a litter. So they can have a litter, be nursing those pups. 2 days later, get pregnant again, and essentially to start the whole process over again. So these things really do breed like, I mean, they're big rats, so it's not really surprising they breed quickly. But like, that's almost insane. When you really like, just to really think about it, like, it just like build up their population. It's so easy for them. These animals live in groups that typically consist of 2 to 13 individuals, according to the University of Michigan Museum of Zoology Animal Diversity Web. The group, that is a hell of a mouthful of a name. The group often includes related adult females, their offspring, and a single adult male. Young adult males are usually solitary, but don't often wander far from where they were born. Males have a home range of about 14 acres, while females stay even closer to home, keeping within about a 6-acre radius. God, that almost sounds like lions. It's estimated that up to 80% of nutria don't survive their first year, and those that do survive only live for 2 or 3 years, according to FWS. However, nutria in captivity may live up to about 12 years, according to the Oregon State University. Nutria have a voracious appetite for wetland plants and will chow down on an entire plant, roots, bark, and all, according to Animal Diversity Web. The furry rodent will occasionally eat small invertebrates such as insects and snails, according to Fish and Wildlife Service, but nutria aren't considered picky eaters as they're often caught eating crops such as rice, sugarcane, and corn. Yeah, there's not really much to say about that. I mean, it's all kind of self-explanatory, I would say. Um, kind of so like basically in the wild they get picked off relatively quickly because like outside of the fact that they can swim, they can bite really hard and scratch. Like they don't have very many other defenses. It's not like they're turtles. You know what I mean? It's like they are big rats, so things will eat them. Why are natives? Why nutria are a problem? Nutria are native to the marshes and coastal lakes in Bolivia and southern Brazil. According to Columbia University, their populations in those locations are kept in check by the seasonal drought-flood cycle. Periods of drought decimate their population, but thanks to their rapid reproduction rate, the nutria are able to recover during the flooding season. Um, so that's your explanation there as to why they reproduce so quickly. Because essentially, like every year, their population will decline probably to like really close to borderline breakdown, and then whenever the environment is better for them, they just rapidly reproduce. Essentially, in the 1800s, fur traders brought nutria to the U.S. so that the animal could be easily harvested for their thick and soft undercoat of fur. But when the fur market collapsed in the mid-1900s, many nutria farms couldn't afford to keep their animals and released them into the wild. The nutria not only survived but thrived in their non-native homes. Today, nutria populations are found across the U.S., primarily in the coastal states. According to FWS, there is also an invasive species in Europe, Asia, and Africa due to fur farms escapees, according to the Global Invasive Species Database. People be people, man. Like, this is there. I mean, obviously, it's almost a limitless supply of fur, literally, and they're probably more reliable and probably a little bit hardier than beavers. So, I mean, I could see where the idea was, but it was obviously a bad idea. Nutria are now considered one of the most ecologically harmful invasive species on the planet. Oh, but look at them. There's a whole family there. As an exotic invasive species in our North American wetlands, they can be especially destructive since plant species did not evolve with this foreigner, said Thomas Gehring, a professor of ecology and biology at Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Nutria eat about 25% of their body weight each day in plants and their roots wreaking havoc on the native ecosystem. Because the animal eats the entire plant, the vegetation are less likely to grow back, according to National Geographic. The removal of the root system destabilizes the soil around the water, which causes it to quickly erode and become open water. The burrowing habitat of nutria also damage flood control levees that protect low-lying areas and water-retaining levees using in agriculture. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Wildlife Damage Management Extension, their activity can cause such extensive damage that the levees need to be completely reconstructed. The destructive creatures also burrow into the flotation supports under boat docks and wharves, underneath building foundations, roads, streams, and dams, which can weaken these structures and cause them to lean, sink, and collapse. As mentioned, nutria will dine on numerous agricultural crops such as rice, corn, wheat, and more. They've also been known to gorge on home vegetable gardens and freshly planted grasses. Not only are invasive nutria catastrophic for the environment, but they also play host to several diseases and parasites, including tuberculosis, tapeworm, liver flukes, and nematodes. It can be a significant health hazard for people and animals to drink or swim in water contaminated by nutria feces, urine, according to Fish and Wildlife Service. Yeah, these things have like some crazy level of property damage with their tunnels. Like it's almost like gophers. Like how gophers and groundhogs will like just dig holes and it can like collapse foundations. Like pretty much what these things do. How to prevent further damage. Because nutria are such a prolific and resilient species, controlling their population to curb further environmental damage is a significant challenge. Environmental groups around the U.S. have tried a range of tactics with varying success. The Department of Fish and Wildlife has found that excluding nutria from their preferred environments to be the most effective approach. The agency recommends building 3-foot wire fences buried at least 6 inches underground and around gardens and lawns, putting electric wire fences around vegetation, and constructing sheet metal shields around wood structures to prevent nutria from gnawing on them. But other agencies and experts think a more offensive approach is better. The only effective means we have is trapping and or shooting nutria, but that takes a concerted and sustained effort. Or you could just open a season for them, and then you get money, and people get food if they're willing to eat nutria. But I mean, most of these people are hunters and trappers are already eating beavers, knocking down the nutria population. It doesn't take much for these things to reproduce. So I mean, I think even if you run out, if just the population just dies, then you've just kind of solved the invasive species problem. Although at this point, I don't believe you're going to get them all, so I feel like it's going to be a pretty steady flow of income. State agencies from Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware have partnered with the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Fish and Wildlife Service to eradicate local nutria populations. The groups are working with public and private landowners to monitor the animals' habitats so that they can set traps and humanely euthanize the mammals, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Some groups also use dogs to detect, track, and trap nutria to prevent them from reestablishing their populations in locations where they have been removed, Gehring said. Continuous monitoring and removal of nutria is especially important as global warming increases the number of potential nutria habitats in North America, according to a 2019 study published in the Journal of Wildlife Management. In many of the places involved with containment, the eradication of nutria groups are working to rebuild the ecosystem that the animals damaged or destroyed. In some instances, a wetland area can recover and rebuild itself on its own, but oftentimes active restoration efforts such as planting native plants and replenishing the soil are required to help rebuild the ecosystem. It just takes a single pregnant female to quickly repopulate an area from which nutria were previously eradicated. So in order to keep restoration efforts moving forwards, it is important that any sightings of the creatures be reported to state and federal wildlife agencies, even in places where the animals are thought to be completely eradicated. So yeah, guys, that was a lot more about nutria rats than I ever honestly knew. I never knew they were an invasive species. I didn't realize they could cause this much property damage just by digging holes. It doesn't make sense because actually that I didn't realize that because a lot of animals have that problem. I mean, even some fish that are invasive are causing that kind of a problem with compromising banks and things. But anyway, though, you guys let me know what you guys thought and what you guys think. Have you guys ever actually hunted nutria rats? Have you guys ever eaten them? Do they taste good? All of these are questions that I have answered that I would love to have answered. And yeah, though, guys, without further ado, though, we're at the end of it. So if you guys don't mind, go ahead, subscribe, hit that notification bell, drop those comments down below, follow me on my social medias, which will be after this, and I will see you guys in the next video.